Priyanka, let me know once we're live. Okay. Shall we? Okay. So thanks a lot, everybody, who are being part of our show. So first of all, I would love to say thanks everybody for joining the InnoFact show talks for this Thursday. Today is 1st of April, and we are talking about occupational health and hygiene in the hospitality industry. We all know that hygiene and cleanliness have been very important part of, just 1 second, let me stop share. Yeah, health and hygiene and cleanliness have always been very high priority in our lives, but the current crisis and pandemic have made it hugely different, and it brought its priority unparalleled to anything else, right? And that is why it becomes very important for us to discuss occupational health and hygiene, especially considering that when the hospitality and entertainment industry revive, how are we going to face the challenges, what kind of challenges we are going to face, and how are we going to maintain the same. So on this note, I would like to welcome two speakers with us today. First, Manuela, who has been Director of Education and Certification with ISSA International. She has been, we have been thankful to her for joining us from Italy. It's a little late over there, but she has been available. So we really appreciate Manuela for that. She has been also been involved in her career with INREV as well as Moody's for training and education part. So we really look forward for her contribution and her thoughts about the industry. In addition to that, we have Eric. So welcome, Eric. So Eric is a VP of hospitality industry with Purelin, and he comes with almost 25 years of experience in the industry, hospitality industry, where he has worked across large brands and large branch of hotels and casinos across the country, right? So welcome you both on the webinar with us, right? So as I discussed and stated that the hygiene and cleanliness is very important. So at first, I would love to hear Manuela's thoughts on how exactly she thinks that what is the role of cleanliness, especially to bring the business back for hospitality industry. Over to you, Manuela.
So good morning or afternoon to everyone. Thank you for having me today. So I think that, we are all waiting for the trusted vaccines and the safe therapeutics to relieve COVID-19 fears. But while waiting for that to actually advance and being adopted across the globe, I think like really building owners, asset managers, facility managers, as well as hotels must work to get indeed the occupants confidently back into the building now. So we know that even with the advent of the vaccine, we will have to learn how to live with the virus, because we know that there will be other pandemic. This is not the first, and they will not be the last. As the flu vaccine has been around for years, it has not made the flu completely disappear. The same way with the COVID-19 vaccine, it cannot be considered as the magic pill. Well, that will immediately restore occupants' trust that a space is safe to be used. So I think indeed, like building owners, facility managers, they need to create new plans to inspire occupants and customers and visitors' confidence that the building is safe to be used, and that that facility, that hotel in the specific, is doing the best they can to reduce the risk of contracting the virus. And it's a tipping point, because the facility managers, the hospitality leaders are indeed also looking at the trusted partners, the suppliers, the cleaning service providers, to create those plans and to get guidance and to get answers. And it's a key tipping point, because we are not cleaning anymore for aesthetics. but we are indeed cleaning for health because we are removing harmful pathogens. So this is, I think, a shift in philosophy that has taken place thanks to the, in a certain sense, has been an opportunity for the industry due to the pandemic. We are cleaning for health, and to clean for health is important that facility managers know what processes, systems they need to implement to create that healthy environment.
Yeah, thanks, Manuela. So, Eric, as you not only come from the hotel operations side of it, and currently you are onto the vendor side for the hospitality industry, right? How do you see the role of cleanliness and hygiene, and do you think that those parameters would change altogether after this pandemic?
I certainly do. I think that our now normal, what we actively have in our daily lives, transitioning to our next normal is going to look different from our old normal, because it really is a lot of the standards and the practices that we've adopted now are going to transition to our next normal. So I think masks are still going to be part of our everyday life. I think hand sanitizer and the satisfaction and the quality of a clean environment is going to be key to bringing everyone back and assuring the general public that it's okay and safe to be there. If you think of a restaurant that has to get health and safety qualified every month or every quarter, it brings to light the requirements of a clean environment. And I think that's what hospitality and hospitality guests are really going to look for in the future. I think, ultimately we'll probably transition to a lesser degree of requirements. So at some point you won't wear your mask anymore, and at some point you'll forget your hand sanitizer. And but I think that in the near future, that's going to be an everyday practice until we all feel safe. But feeling safe is doing all the things that we're doing and keeping that progressive safety concern at the forefront. It really is from a hospitality standpoint. It really shows the fortitude and creativity of our hospitality leaders to show how safe and how welcoming an environment they are offering. Not just, again, you don't want to overdo it, but you want to make sure that guests are seeing you perform the clean and sanitizing practices that you are expected to do. No one wants to be in a weird position where they just aren't aware of and they can't trust where they are. I think there's going to be different levels of clean, and you've seen that with the well project, which is kind of well building standards, and you've seen that with all the green initiatives that show how sustainability and recyclability is important. And I think people are going to look for that in the future.
And Eric, if I may, because it's very interesting what you say about the fact that we are having the new normal will keep developing and following the development of the pandemic, and this is also exactly what we advocate for as the Worldwide Association for the Cleaning Industry through also our Global Biorisk Advisory Council. We advocate for an approach called confidence cleaning. So it's a process involving proper risk assessment, followed by implementing all the necessary steps for cleaning, and if needed, disinfection, providing the assurance that an area is clean and safe for occupancy. Because it's indeed, we are talking about a scalable approach, right? Because one question we are always asked, it's like, what is the level of cleaning? How we define the level of cleaning and disinfection that is necessary to make people stay and feel safe? And that's not the same for every facility. That's not the same for every hotel. It's really depending what is the risk of the virus entering that facility. And the level of disinfection will depend if there has been an event of like an outbreak in that facility, or if there has been not. And on the basis of that, I think the clients, the facility managers, the hotels operators need together to establish those frequencies, those procedures, and keep adjusting them as they go.
True. Yeah, Manuela. So, Manuela, on the same note, what I would also say interesting is that I've never seen in my life like so many communication, advertisement happening about training the masses for cleanliness, right? So I remember the times of March and April 2020. There was so much of communication across the globe about how to clean, right? People knew that they wanted to be clean, right? So what do you think, like beyond the mass public, when it comes down to the people as an employee of or staff of the hospitality industry or entertainment industry, the role which an education or a training or a regular retraining would play in maintaining and sustaining it? Because this is now, everybody understands, this is not one-time activity. This is now has to become part of our life, right?
Yes, well, there has been a lot of communication, and sometimes in a certain sense, over communication or miscommunication on what was supposed to be done and needed to be done. And there has been a sort of overreacting and some panic. And we have seen some, of course, sort of cowboys taking advantage of that. And likely we also have seen very ethical and responsible professionals actually trying to vouch for a science-based cleaning approach. And I think this is very, very important. We are talking cleaning is a science. Why not always be a rocket science, but it is. And you need to know what you're actually you are doing. Clean, like disinfection is something that comes, for example, after cleaning. But we have been seeing a lot of the new technologies coming on board and focus on the disinfecting part of the cleaning. But it's a two-step process. First, you proper clean, and then second, you disinfect, and you disinfect what is at high risk. Also because you wanted to make sure that disinfectants are available where they are really needed, right? You don't want to distress the supply chain and then you don't have disinfectants in a hospital. And we have also looked at so much of this, heard of this technology, terminology, deep cleaning, hospital cleaning, advocated for commercial spaces. And doesn't make a lot of sense because disinfecting can be aggressive, for example, and they can have negative consequences for the operators. And then is when actually, indeed, the training and education are key for the housekeeping departments, of course, for those who are conducting the cleaning task, but also for those who are measuring the cleanliness, who are defining the kind of outcome that they wanted to achieve. And overall, not only in the hotels, but across the world, is like owners need to understand that cleaning comes with a cost. I mean, like quality comes with a cost, right? So you can't like push your service providers for doing more and more and more for less and less and less, because otherwise quality will be impacted. And training is an investment. Cleaning is an investment. You need to invest in your staff to understand how to use PPE, how to use the new technology, how to create standard, because you want to have a standardized approach. You want to make sure anyone is conducting a task is doing the same way to have then the result that you have planned. So investment in cleaning is something that is required and comes with education at all levels within the organizations, I think. I don't know, Eric, what you think?
Eric means, because Manuela gave it from a perspective of from a government or from a regulatory or ISSE standpoint. You come from operations, and she's very clearly said that this is an investment. This is a resource intensive activity to bring hygiene and health to the topmost priority. How have you seen like people reacting to it in the industry in terms of operations?
Just as Manuela said, it's a commitment. It's a financial and a training commitment to educate, understand, and retrain. And there's a lot of shortcuts that used to take place. And I think again, we're at the precipice of with everyone getting vaccinated, where a return to normal doesn't mean a return to, well, we don't have to do that anymore. It really to ensure everyone's safety and health, we should still keep doing all the things that we're doing. So when you have new employees and have them understand, train them properly, have them understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and quiz them. It's an ongoing relationship and interaction as a leader and as a supervisor of people that provide a service, to make sure that they understand what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it really is important to the guest perception and the guest satisfaction of a clean environment. The reality is, as we approach a more stable environment, a lot of decision makers are going to be looking at the bottom line to say, well, this is how much we're spending now on this effort. When can we cut back? When can we trim that number down so we can reallocate it or save it? And the answer is you shouldn't. Not to say you need to put more toward it, but keep doing what you're doing to maintain that consistency.
So do you foresee that this push or this investment requirement from the industry on the health and hygiene would be primarily driven by the compliance requirements, or do you foresee like the hospitality industry is truly understanding the value of it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that there's going to be a middle ground that is settled into with regulators and also operators to say, regulators say this is what we expect. Operators say this is the realistic level that we can provide, and they'll meet somewhere in the middle. But it's a consistent and engaging conversation. It isn't just do whatever you want to do, because to have the guest and the employees in mind, because it's a symbiotic relationship. You can't have a safe environment if you don't have your employees that provide that, and you don't have an environment if you don't have guests coming in to use it that feel safe. So, it really is important, to communicate properly.
Sure. Manuela, how do you see, like, when we say like there's a balance of enforcement and engagement, right, with the industry, right? How do you see ISSA's role onto it actually?
Well, another element I think that we should be in the equation, because you talked about the complaints and then the regulators, but it's also if something happens, right? If something happened in the facility, how can the facility prove that they have done the best possible to mitigate that risk? And to do that, they need to have a clear SOP and be able to prove, to clearly communicate what they've done. So a proper document management approach, proper systems that are going to walk the client through what has happened is going to help, is going to protect the hotels from any sort of liability. Because is something happening, like you can show that you've done your best, you cannot eliminate the risk of a virus entering in the facility, but you can show that you have put in place a proper system to mitigate that risk. And I think that is an important element of that symbiotic approach between regulator, customers, and also operators that wanted to feel safe. And indeed, it's a balancing act. But what I also wanted to mention is that with education comes also an efficient and effective way of doing things. And it goes back to the fact that there has been some overreacting, and we have seen hospitals, not hospitals, more like other kinds of facilities running through getting new technologies, for example, the UFC, but not really asking themselves, like, do I really need it? Is this the right environment? I'm using the right technology for the goal that I wanted to achieve. And actually, many times it was like they are spending so much money for something that might not be needed because the due diligence that they did and the question that they asked themselves were not the right one. And this is what ICSA is trying to do. We are trying to educate our customer base and our clients, including indeed the end user, to ask their partners the right questions. Like, what do we want to achieve? In which environment we want to use something? What can we afford? And depending on what can you afford, what is the risk you're gonna, of course, gonna have, and on the basis of that, taking the right approach, sustainable approach, because you don't want indeed the cleaning becoming such a high cost that then is not worth it anymore. Right? So you need to find that sort of a common denominator.
Very true. So is there any specific certification what ISSA have brought in the current perspective, which would actually, if a hotel industry or hospitality industry has that certificate, has that certification, does it actually bring confidence to the customers?
Yes, so as mentioned before, we wanted to make sure that like the facility managers, the hotels, the entertainment managers can prove that they are the expert in the field and that they are bringing the know-how that is required to indeed the cleaning for health. And to do so, we have likely 2 years ago, ICSA acquired the Global Biorisk Advisories Divisions, which is a division comprised by industry leaders in the field of biohazard and biorisk. And we were supposed to launch the GBAC Star Facility Accreditation in actually 2022, but we had to just fast track and make it happen in 2019 because there was so much need to have that certification, those standards, those processes out there to help business owners with what they really needed. So the accreditation now has seen more than 3,500 facilities accredited all over the world. And actually corporations like Hyatt, for example, have made it mandatory for all their hotels across the globe. And with this sort of accreditation, like the hotel can really sort of claim that they are maintaining the strict cleaning protocols for infectious disease, that they are using the best practices to limit the impact of future outbreaks, that they are protecting the building occupants now and in the future, and that they are empowering the team not only to protect the occupants and the guests, but also to respond to the threat as quick as possible. And yes, we are very proud of the achievement and how we are helping society across the entire globe to do that. And that's why I am here today, that I'm a European talking with a wide US audience, but ICSA is a truly worldwide organization. And the GBAC division as well.
So we really appreciate your thoughts, Manuela. So Eric, coming from Purelin's experience, right? I have a very specific question. Like, means how do you see in-room cleanliness and hygiene versus primarily the overall facility hygiene? Like, because the customer who is going to enter into a room or his own private place versus the overall facility hygiene. So would you bring some light on that?
You know, I think that it's such an interesting question because, you know, when you think of hospitality, you think of the outside in, you know, you think of all the public areas, the sitting areas, the casino, the pool area, the shared spaces. And then you think, you know, that leads into the guest room. the guest room, again, it sort of gets short shrift because it's underappreciated and under valued, because it's the room and that's what you get, and these are the great things that we're going to tell you we're going to do about it. But I think now that the demand will be there, and Purelin is excuse me, is certainly addressing from the room outward. With our linen product, it's a closed loop 100% recycled bed linen. So we're giving the confidence to the guest of you will never sleep on anything that anyone else has slept on before. It is a personalized viewpoint that nobody else has taken, because it's truly unique, and it isn't repurposed, and it isn't recycled in that it used to be something else. Now it's a different fabric. It truly is an interesting and compelling conversation when you think of all of the surfaces and all of the textures in the room, to have something that's hypoallergenic and that is made for you. And it truly is a breath of fresh air to think that, as a hotel guest, whether it's bed sheets or towels or linens or blankets, something that's truly, while it is single use, it is recyclable. It doesn't use water. It doesn't use chemicals. There's no wastewater. There's no, it cuts down on labor. It truly is a unique concept to think of the in-room outward, and I think that you start to see a lot of that now, where how do you make soaps and amenities safer, and how do you that hair dryer in the room, you think of all the contact services and the standard coffee maker that's in every guest room. How do we make that safer? When the single-use K-cup came through, that changed the game. But it's still, there's still a machine there that needs to be cleaned and disinfected every single time. So how do you maximize, the environment, but also minimize the cost? And from our standpoint, Purelin has really done a great job of approaching that, and giving back to the environment, but also providing a luxury bedding alternative.
Good. So thanks, Eric, for providing your inputs on this. So with this, I would love to head towards the questions coming from the audience side of it. So I would love to first put together first question, which is coming from Trishi Sanase, and she's asking about, how do you cope up with these intensified cleanliness standards with your manpower? So Eric, I would say that because it's more of an operation side, I'd love to seek your view first.
It's a yin and yang question. It's such a challenge, because I think of all the smaller operators, all the 100-room hotel motels around the world that weren't prepared for something like this, that all of a sudden, they're having to add to staff when there isn't any staff, or they're having to acquire PPE and all the plastic barriers and all those things that sometimes they get assistance, either government or investment, or otherwise they don't. And how do you do it? And I think that has been the determination and for the success or failure for a lot of small businesses, no matter hospitality, restaurant, or otherwise. I really think that from a strategic labor standpoint, it really is, you have to sit down with your managers and with a calculator and figure out what makes sense for your organization, and how how you're currently staffed, what's your ceiling, what's your floor, if you had a $1 jillion, what can you do to move the needle? But if you only had what you have, how do you move the needle with that amount? So it's up to the specific operator, but I think you have to be smart in your strategy.
Very true. So Manuela, what do you comment on this? Because Eric's response gave me a point that there is a difference in terms of what a small and medium sized operator business can do, whereas what Hiltons of the world can do, right? So what do you suggest on that aspect? Are there two different standards for this based on the scale of the business?
No, so I will say, for example, the GPAC Star accreditation applies to any size kind of facility. So we have small boutique hotels in India who are going through it, a luxurious hotel in Italy, or a 3-star hotel in Spain, because it's a performance-based accreditation and is based on continuous improvement. So he helps you to really analyze what are your resources, what are the standard, and how you can start to move towards that standard. And we also have actually a 3 hours online course on the fundamentals of cleaning and disinfecting that also thanks to one of our members, Kimberly Clark, who donated, as I say, $500,000 last year. We can make this course available to 10,000 cleaning operatives across the world through the scholarship. So if anyone in this call is interested, then you can put them in contact with me if you wish, and we can donate this course to really empower cleaning operatives, again, to be efficient and effective and trying to understand what they can achieve with the resources. Everyone, as Eric said, is like you really needed to look at your facility, you needed to look at the kind of the floor you have, the furniture you have. And again, it's like looking at the risk and decide what, how you're going to mitigate at the best of your ability. But then you need to be transparent with your clients. I think this is very important. You need to communicate clearly what you have been doing and be transparent on what you have been doing, and not saying something for another, because that is where you're gonna have a big reputation issue, because the clients need to know what they are buying in.
Manuela, I would say that we really appreciate the InnoFact team would love to receive the details about the content available and the support available from ISSA, and we will certainly share with all the audience of the show actually. So would really appreciate that. So Eric, another question, which is a very unique question again coming from the audience, is that at times the customers and the consumers have seen an excessive usage of sanitization products as well, right? Sanitizers and UV rays and a lot of them, right? And they are concerned about health as well. So what do you say on this actually?
I think that working and managing smart is key to the success of any health initiative. If your team doesn't understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how much they should be doing, then again that's a breakdown in leadership, because it really is to Manuela's point, it is an investment in the process and your standard procedures that are established, and it really is important to understand that no matter which level you're on. The Hiltons and Hyatts, they have big teams that come up with their policies and procedures, and that just gets sent down. But for the smaller operator to work smart, but reach out to all of the resources that you can. Reach out to your fellow hoteliers, because they're probably having the same challenges that you are, and you can help one another with vendors, with standard procedures, with best practices. What works for you probably works for somebody else, and if you share your information, again, health and safety shouldn't be a competition. It should be a shared investment. So it really is important to look at it that way.
Great. So, yeah, Manuela, carry on.
Yes.
Want to
No,
add something?
I wanted to echo Eric's point about collaboration, which is really, really key. We shouldn't we should compete. Of course, there is competition, but there are certain elements where we need to collaborate. And this is also why you have industry association, as I say, because we wanted to offer like a platform for all the industry players to connect, to learn, to influence the decision makers. So indeed, and on our website, we have a coronavirus resource page with a lot of tips, resources that are complementary to everyone. So the guests that are attending the webinar today, they can find a lot of interesting resources really on the basic of cleaning disinfection. And the vendor point is also very important. As I mentioned at the beginning, is like you need to turn to your trusted vendors and ask them for support and guidance. And you need to be smart enough to select the one that can help you. It's not anymore like before that your suppliers were selling a product or chemicals and then waving goodbye. It's now an ongoing relationship. They need to help you and they need to train and educate you on how to use their products. And you need to demand to have a clear guidance. Look at the security safety data sheet, like talk with your manufacturers, talk with your distributors, because they can give you great tips. They need to be your business partners in this. You are not alone.
Sure. And we have also seen like a lot of new tech, or I would rather call it as a disruptive technology that is coming up on a very regular basis to bring support for health and hygiene maintenance, right? So Eric, would you like to share your experience on this direction?
So, our Purulent product is a game changer because, from a water conservation, sustainability, and recyclability standpoint, we really offer something that truly is unique. When you think of the standard bed linens, hotel bed linens, a queen sheet, just to manufacture one queen sheet takes 2,800 gallons of water just to manufacture that one queen sheet, where our queen sheet takes 1 gallon of water. To maintain that, to wash it, to launder it, both the laundry, the chemicals, the wastewater, it's hundreds of thousands of gallons per sheet when you break it down, and ours are in the tens of gallons. To be able to engineer something that's so useful and so compelling from a hospitality standpoint is truly game changing. I read a quote from Elon Musk this morning that it said that your every idea is crazy until it's not, and to be able to be able to to be able to offer an alternative to the guests, but also the smaller operator who's struggling with labor costs, with water costs, with chemical costs, and to provide something so unique as a recycled bed linen that's one-time use, that is a closed loop, that it starts out the way it finishes the way it starts out. So it starts with these little plastic beads made into thread, which is made into a sheet. Once the sheet's used, it's stripped and melted, made into beads, made into thread, it's a closed loop system. So it really is, it's just a unique concept that, really it's time, now that we think of COVID exposure and the cleanliness that we like to aspire to, but also, when you think of traveling, there are a lot of folks out there that bring their own linens and bring their own towels, and they want to be as clean as they can be. And to think of, well, who else has slept on that sheet, and who else has used this room besides me. Our housekeeping staff does the best that they can do to clean and sanitize the room. But if you know in your heart that this is a brand new set of sheets, it's an amazing concept.
Very true. Very true. So the last question I'll take from the audience is coming from Sudipto Bappa, who asks, I guess the question is appropriate for Manula, that which is more important in hospitality, education or experience?
Well, I think you cannot do without one of the two. You need to formalize your experience. It needs to be formalized with proper theory, so that then you can sort of argument what you have been experiencing, and you can put what you have been experiencing in a wider spectrum, so that you can keep growing. Because that is the point. If you want to grow and develop in your role, you need to have experience on the ground, but you need to be able to have proper education that is helping you to challenge your status quo and push you to go further. So both. If you have been, if you are now skipper that has been working on the industry for very long and not taken any formal certification, I recommend to do that if you want to move out the ladder. And that's the other thing, like housekeepers, cleaning operatives, they are professions. Like they are proper career, and as any proper career, you have to make sure you are embracing the experience with the proper learning.
Sure. If I could jump in, I agree. I think that, with education and experience go hand in hand, because when you're comparing candidates to candidates, if you've got two candidates with equal education, well, what's going to differentiate the two? If you're just looking at them on paper. But if you got a candidate with just education and experience, at least that's your starting point. It really is. I do a lot of mentoring, and and the kids coming up today, they're getting their degrees at university, and they're ready to take on the world, which is great, but they haven't worked an 80-hour, a 40-hour week, 80-hour paycheck. They haven't doubled back when, they haven't worked, the swing shift and doubled back to be there in the morning. They haven't gone through the trials and tribulations of the hospitality business. And, I think that's what makes you a stronger leader and a better, more well-rounded hotelier.
Emmanuel and Eric, if your time permits for 2 more minutes, I guess we got last questions just now. One coming from Nathan about how important is robotics in cleaning in the future of hospitality and entertainment industry. Eric, would you love to take that?
To repeat the question for me?
Yeah.
How important is robotics in cleaning in future of hospitality and entertainment industry?
I don't know what.
Role of robotics.
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 Yes.
I think that robotics, there's a place for it. I think with all the UV lights and all the set it and forget it, air cleaners and that sort of thing. But I think that until we can truly master the hands-on experience, it really is, it's going to be a manual centric department.
Yeah.
If I can add on that, I see robotics being helpful in like big facilities, like when you are performing labor intensive, repetitive work, but when you're going into the details, then it's difficult. So he can help because he can relieve some of the pressure from the operators and give the operators, the employees, the possibility to focus on like a high level, highly skilled task. Meanwhile, the monotone task of I don't know, scrubbing a floor can be done by the robotics. But it's also like it needed to be embedded in a process. Cannot just like you see facilities buying a robots and then putting in a storage, because actually either the operators don't know how to use it, or it's not indeed, there's not been that change management in the organization on how you're going to embed it in your overall system. So it's still, I think we are on a learning. It is there. It will be further adopted, but like he has to go again hand in hand with the change in the mindset, and still there are areas where he will not fit. That's it's not like a solution for every
I really see your thought. Yeah, I really agree with you. So one last question coming from Kenneth, I'm sure it's a little different in line, but let me just share with you, is one of the bigger problem is cross-contamination in food items in restaurants. Are hospitality groups using any new initiatives to keep their kitchens hygienic? Shall I repeat? Means he's talking about restaurant problem in terms of cross-contamination. So it's a little bit probably technical question from a restaurant perspective.
Well, cross-contamination is a big issue now everywhere. This has been, I think, what also the pandemic has proved. So again, being prepared, being aware of what you're doing, being able to measure the cleanliness using your ATP technology, for example, to see what's the load of microbial load in your surface. This is something that it's been used a lot, and we are hearing more and more about it, not only on kitchens, but also in other kind of surfaces and environment. I don't know if Eric has any more.
I think that when it comes to kitchen safety, it's hard to do the little things, but that's what you have to do. It really is. It is of paramount importance to have attention to detail. It doesn't matter the kitchen. It doesn't matter whether it's a food stand or a five-star kitchen. They have the same problems, but they have to address them the same way, where you have to make sure your staff is trained properly. You have to make sure you're repeating every single shift, every single day, the procedures and the best practices that you've come up with. And there's no excuses, because again, you're, as convenient as food is, as prepared food is, it could be a killer, and you don't want to fall into that category. It's a luxury that we all love and we all miss now that we're mid quarantine, but we want to get back to the real world and delicious food prepared for us again. And I think that the conscientious operator has that attention to detail and does the hard things that nobody likes to do.
Sure. I agree with you. So with this, I would love to thank once again Eric and Manuela for your availability and sharing your experiences and thoughts with us and with the audience. And with this, I would love to end our today's webinar. However, the most important thing is to share some information about the InnoFact show, which is the main event, which is expected to happen on 8th and 9th of June, targeted for the US market. And we intend to bring a lot of disruptive innovation for the hospitality industry and facility management therein in that show. So for the same, I'd love to share a small video for just a minute, and for the interest of everybody, just allow me for a minute to share it, the screen. Is my screen visible?
Mm-hmm.
This is the blank screen. Does that work? Yeah. Okay. So this was an introduction to the InnoFact show. I look forward for everybody's participation into our upcoming webinars every Thursday, as well as the InnoFact show, which is going to happen on 8th and 9th June. For more information, please visit our website, and I look forward for everybody's participation. At the end, I'd love to thank once again Manula and Eric and all the participants for their valuable contribution. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arshit. Nice to meet
Thank
you,
you.
Eric.
Have a nice day,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.